In this video, you're going to see Henry Cavill read from the Lesser Evil short story in the Last Wish book, and you'll also hear him read a selection of the Witcher short story in the Last Wish book by Andrzej Sapkowski. But first, we're going to give you the Witcher reading list. And so season 1 of The Witcher, one of the things that we've been doing on the Linus Wilson channel here, which you should subscribe to if you want to get the lowdown on the Witcher Netflix series and tips and tricks for the Witcher games. What we've been doing is plot leak spoiler videos based mostly on the books, because that is what the series is based on. So if you don't want to know what short stories the books are based, or the season 1 of The Witcher is based on, then you won't want to watch this video. But I'm going to give it to you right now. So let's see if I can bring up the list of The Witcher season 1 reading list. All right, so they're from 2 books by Andrzej Sapkowski. The first one is The Last Wish. That was the first short story book written by Andrzej Sapkowski, the Polish author. Polyglot. I think he knows 20 different languages, although I don't think he translated his books. Some other people translated his books. But the first story he wrote chronologically was The Witcher, but that's going to be the 3rd short story, and that was the 2nd short story that Henry Cavill will read you. So one thing is that Henry Cavill is a good reader. He's a great actor. It would be awesome if he read those books. But today, you can buy the audiobook, and it is narrated by Peter Kenny, and he does a gangbusters awesome job of voice acting the entire book. Voice actors get almost nothing. They make almost nothing. As a publisher, as an author, I've written 3 books. I've published 5 books. Some books that I've not written, I've published 5 audiobooks. And I make almost nothing from my audiobooks. It's an act of love. So if Henry Cavill wants to record those audiobooks, I'm sure the publishers would let him. I'm sure Andrzej Sapkowski would let him. But he's not going to make any money from it. It's a lot of work, a lot of hard work recording audiobooks. So more power to him for reading the audiobooks, and I would encourage you to buy them from wherever you like to buy your audiobooks. But okay, so the first short story in the Witcher Netflix reading list is The Lesser Evil, Episode 1. Episode 2, The Edge of the World. Episode 3, The Witcher. Episode 4, A Question of Price. Episode 5, The Last Wish. All those A books are in the Last Wish book. So both these books are named after one of their short stories. And then the episode 6 is based on the Bounds of Reason short story. And episode 7, I believe, not totally confirmed, is going to be based on Shard of Ice and Sword of Destiny. And then episode 8, Something More. Now, of course, the Witcher Netflix series is going beyond the books. And I've said in many other videos on this channel that the stories of Ciri and Yennefer in particular are going to go beyond the book material, and they are not going to be in this sequence. So the sequence of books, short stories that I'm talking about here for the Witcher Netflix reading list, season 1, is mostly Geralt's side of the story. Right. That being said, The Last Wish, The Bounds of Reason, Shard of Ice, Sword of Destiny, and Something More include both one or the other. So, like Last Wish, Bounds of Reason, Shard of Ice, Yennefer and Geralt. Sword of Destiny includes Geralt and Ciri. Something more includes Geralt and Ciri. So a lot of these will only be Geralt's side of the story, but sometimes it'll also include Ciri and Geralt. Okay, so let's bring up the reading by the magnificent actor, voice actor, former Superman actor Henry Cavill, and his reading of The Lesser Evil.
My name is Henry Cavill and I play Geralt of Rivia in Netflix's new series, The Witcher.
I'm here to take you back to where we first met the Witcher, this book, The Last Wish. Let's begin, shall we? As usual, cats and children noticed him first. A striped tomcat sleeping on a sun-warmed stack of wood shuddered, raised his round head, pulled back his ears, hissed, and bolted off into the nettles. 3-year-old Dragomir, Fisherman Trigla's son, who was sitting on the hut's threshold, doing his best to make dirtier an already dirty shirt, started to scream as he fixed his tearful eyes on the passing rider. The Witcher rode slowly, without trying to overtake the hay cart obstructing the road. A laden donkey trotted behind him, stretching its neck, and constantly pulling the cord tied to the Witcher's pommel tight. In addition to the usual bags, the long-eared animal was lugging a large shape, wrapped in a saddlecloth on its back. The grey-white flanks of the ass were covered with black streaks of dried blood.
Okay, next up is Henry Cavill reading from The Witcher.
The stranger was not old, but his hair was almost entirely white. Beneath his coat, he wore a worn leather jerkin laced up at the neck and shoulders. As he took off his coat, those around him noticed that he carried a sword. Not something unusual in itself. Nearly every man in Wizim carried a weapon, but no one carried a sword strapped to his back as if it were a bow or a quiver. The stranger did not sit at the table with the few other guests. He remained standing at the counter, piercing the innkeeper with his gaze. He drew from the tankard. "We'll give you a hand," the pockmarked man hissed. He knocked the tankard from the stranger's hand and simultaneously grabbed him by the shoulder, dug his fingers into the leather strap which ran diagonally across the outrider's chest. One of the men behind him raised a fist to strike. The outsider curled up on the spot, throwing the pockmarked man off balance. The sword hissed in its sheath and glistened briefly in the dim light. The place seethed. There was a scream, and one of the few remaining customers tumbled towards the exit. A chair fell with a crash, and earthenware smacked hollowly against the floor. The innkeeper, his lips trembling, looked at the horribly slashed face of the pocked man, who, clinging with his fingers to the edge of the counter, was slowly sinking from sight. The other two were lying on the floor, one motionless, the other writhing and convulsing in a dark, spreading puddle. A woman's hysterical scream vibrated in the air, piercing the ears as the innkeeper shuddered, caught his breath, and vomited. The stranger retreated toward the wall, tense and alert. He held the sword in both hands, sweeping the blade through the air. No one moved. Terror, like cold mud, was clear on their faces, paralyzing limbs and blocking throats. 3 guards rushed into the tavern with thuds and clangs. They must have been close by. They had truncheons wound with leather straps at the ready, but at the sight of the corpses, drew their swords. The Rivian pressed his back against the wall, and with his left hand, pulled a dagger from his boot. "Throw that down," one of the guards yelled with a trembling voice. "Throw that down, you thug, you're coming with us." A second guard kicked aside the table between himself and the Rivian. "Go get the men, Tresca," he shouted to the third guard, who had stayed closer to the door. "No need," said the stranger, lowering his sword. "I'll come by myself." "You'll go, you son of a bitch, on the end of a rope," yelled the trembling guard. "Throw that sword down or I'll smash your head in." The Rivian straightened. He quickly pinned his blade under his left arm, and with his right hand raised towards the guard, swiftly drew a complicated sign in the air. The clout nails which studded his tunic from wrists to elbow flashed. The guards drew back, shielding their faces with their arms. One of the customers sprang up while another darted to the door. The woman screamed again, wild An ear splitting. I'll come by myself, repeated the stranger in his resounding, metallic voice. And the three of you will go in front of me. Take me to the Castellan. I don't know the way. Yes, sir, mumbled the guard, dropping his head. He made towards the exit, looking around tentatively. The other two guards followed him out backward, hastily. The stranger followed in their tracks, sheathing his sword and dagger. As they passed the tables, the remaining customers hid their faces from the dangerous stranger. And there you have it. It's not easy being a Witcher. Trust me, I'd know. You'd think people would be a little more grateful when you save them from monsters.
Thank you for joining me for this reading. But as you know, Geralt's adventure is just beginning.
Name's Linus Wilson. We're going to cover the Witcher Netflix series. We're going to have a big party on the 19th, and we are going to break down all those episodes of the Witcher Netflix, just like we've broken down all the trailers. We got lots of tips and tricks videos for Witcher 3 gamers. So subscribe, hit the bell notification icon so you don't miss our next video. I'm Linus Wilson. Bye-bye.